is very racist against Africans. An African in the States.
Philosophical conscientism.
Such a philosophical statement. I propose.
Osajifo! 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 Osajifo!
Then the white supremacy system will try to diminish you, try to reduce you down, try to compromise your humanity and your dignity.
Hey guys, my name is SK and I welcome you once again to SKM Media 7. Today I'm here in a school called the People's School. The People's School, which they use Kwame Nkrumah ideology. As I came here this morning, what I saw with my eyes, this is a whole, it's even more than what we learn at the university. If most of the schools in Ghana are doing this, I think it will be very difficult for Africans to, forget their history and their culture. So today I'm here in Mole. Okay, Oye. Sir, please, good morning once again.
Good morning.
Yeah, please, I hope I mentioned the name correctly.
Imole.
Imole.
Oye.
Oye. What's the meaning of Imole, Oye?
Imole means the dawn light. When the light first comes up in the morning, the sunlight, that light is Imole.
Imole. Okay, which language?
Yoruba.
Yoruba.
But my full name is Chibu Ikem Imole Mosi Chuku Oye.
Okay.
That's my full name.
Wow.
But most of the students and staff in the school call me Principal Imole.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. So, if I may ask, are you a diaspora? Have you been to America? A lot of people are saying that this man is from America and he came here to school. How true is that?
Well, I'm not from America. Because in our culture here in Ghana and throughout Africa, if they say, where are you from? Ufrihin. Then you're asking where the hometown of the person.
Sure.
You see, my hometown is here in Africa. But I grew up in the States.
Okay.
But I'm not from the States.
Okay.
Hope you understand.
Yes. How long have you lived in the States?
I lived in the States about 23 years.
Wow.
23, 24 years or so.
So what motivates you or trigger you to come back home to, establish something like this?
Well, like you can see now, the States is very racist against Africans.
Sure.
If you are an African in the States, then the white supremacy system will try to diminish you, try to reduce you down, try to compromise your humanity and your dignity.
Sure.
You see. And so that kind of process, I worked in the education system in the States.
Wow.
So I saw that it's designed to destroy African youth.
The education
system is designed to destroy African youth.
Over there or here?
Over in the States. Here too.
Okay.
Here too, because it's a neo-colonial education. But theirs is settler colonial education. And European settler colonialism is the highest expression of white supremacy. The highest expression. So the intensity and the frequency of the suppression of African culture is more extreme. Like here we have Fanti language as a course. There's no African language being taught over in the States. We have Ghanaian history. There's different things in the education system that will reinforce who we are as Africans, as Ghanaians.
Okay.
But if you go to States, there's nothing about Africa, and the African students in that system, are assimilated into the dominant European culture.
Okay.
And so, it's training them to be, a black skin, white mask. That's like Frantz Fanon's book. Yeah, that's how the training is. Here too, but it's just in a different form.
Okay.
And so I couldn't tolerate watching African children be destroyed in front of my face. And then you try to do anything, or if I tried to do anything to try to protect them or help guide them, then now I become the enemy of these whites in the schools. You see what I'm saying? Then they start looking at me funny, side eyes, and then starting to take action against me. You see what I'm saying? Which I said, okay, I see what's going on here. So let me go home.
So what inspired you to build a school over here? And most of Ghanaian schools, Africa history, they don't teach Africa history in a school. And most of the schools, the Africa language, Ghana here, the local language they teach is Akan. They don't teach Fanti in most of the schools. So why are you teaching Fanti instead of Ashanti or Chi language?
Well, we're in the central region.
Sure.
So that is the requirement from the GES, the Ghana Education Service, is that Fanti language is the local language to be taught in schools. So that's a requirement.
Wow.
But the African history, that's a different issue. Marcus Garvey said that people without history is like a tree without roots. They could be displaced and planted anywhere else, or that tree may die.
Okay.
And so our history is very critical and crucial. And like Mangaliso Sobukwe said, that education can be a weapon for the liberation movement of a people. Okay. And so we're looking at education as our weapon to defeat neocolonialism.
So as I came here during the assembly, I know as we were inside, they beat the drum because when you go to schools, they have bell that they ring the bell for break time, change of lesson, and all that. But here, I heard them beating the drum before the assembly. And during the assembly, what happened over here, I was surprised. I've never seen something like that before. How did you plan? How did you come with this idea? With the kids, they don't watch books, they recite everything from their head. How did you do it?
Well, what we discovered was that the imperialism, which is Africa, and Nkrumah pointed out, is Africa's enemy, is imperialism. That's our enemy. And so imperialism, they try to dominate philosophy and ideology and culture.
Okay.
And so if you look in the universities, the philosophy is Beckley, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Hegel, Aristotle, Plato. That's what African people are learning in the philosophy departments. Okay. And Nkrumah said philosophy is the head over physics, over political science, over math, and all the other disciplines, law. So philosophy is the head. Okay. And so if the enemy is able to control the philosophy, then they have the head. And I think that's one of the main problems with a lot of Africa's leadership. Their philosophy is being dominated by an outside alien culture. And so for us, we see that Nkrumah created a philosophy called philosophical consciencism. Okay. And what we've discovered through research is that conscience is something that is opposed by the Western culture. The European culture is hedonistic. So it's a pleasure-seeking, culture that wants to accumulate wealth, that wants to do gayism and do whatever it feels like will provide pleasure for the people. And we're like, no, our conscience has to dominate. We have to control what we do with what's right, with what's ethical. That's our nature as Africans, to express conscience, and to make conscience dominant. And so we saw that philosophy is better for us, for our morality of the youth, for the unity of the society, for the future of the people, for the maintenance of the nature and the environment. Conscience is better. So philosophical consciencism, we thought, is really an appropriate philosophy for us to express. So we read Kwame Nkrumah's book, Consciencism, Philosophy and Ideology for Decolonization. and we saw exactly where Nkrumah is pointing to the definition.
Okay.
So all the students and staff in the school, we all memorized the definition. What is our philosophy? It's philosophical conscientism. And that's what you heard everybody articulating at assembly. So every staff in the school is able to articulate the school philosophy. Every staff and student in the school is able to articulate the school philosophy and ideology. So we're clear.
Okay.
Because Kwame Ture used to always say that Africans, we have a great unity of action, but what we lack is unity of thought. That's our weakness. And so that's why we're like, no, let us all memorize our philosophy. Because how many African schools can you go to and they can tell you this is our philosophy? And it's an African philosophy. I think probably none. You get what I'm saying? And so even the universities, what's the philosophy of Legon? What's the philosophy of KNUST? You see? And is it an African philosophy? You see? So we're trying to be groundbreakers, pioneers, where we're saying that no, as an African institution, our philosophy needs to be explicitly expressed. Everybody needs to be clear on what the philosophy is, and we also need to be clear on our ideology that's going to organize our ideas leading to our objectives.
Okay.
You know, so Kwame Nkrumah, he said the objectives of Nkrumism are nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and socialism. And so now we're all clear. This is how our thinking is organized, and this is where we're going with that thinking, with our, practice.
Okay. Now let me take you back to the school before we move forward. How long has this school been established? And when I came here, I realized that most of the students here, they don't use foreign names like, Christian, John, and all that. We use the local name. What is the reason behind it? So first, you have to tell us how long is this school being built for here, and what is the idea of you dropping the foreign name, using the local name over here.
Okay, our school was officially open on 15th December 2006. 15th December 2006. That's when we officially opened the school. We had people from Ofankor come to the drummers with Phantom From, and when we opened the school, it was like a very big event. It hadn't rained in Kaswa for months, and then the time we opened the school, rain poured down like we've never ever seen before.
Wow.
Yeah, like just pouring out like anyhow. The rain started coming, so people were all saying the school is blessed.
Wow.
Because maybe even 3 months or so it hadn't rained. Then that moment we are opening the school, and the drummers and the dancers are playing bobobo. Then rain just poured,
Okay.
and so that's when the school opened on 2006, 15th December.
Okay.
Then the reason why we use traditional names is because self-consciousness is a higher logical type than consciousness.
Okay.
And so who people, recognize as themselves, we're Ghanaians, we're Africans, those that type of consciousness about self, who one is very important to directing how a person or people will operate, will function,
Okay.
In practice. And so we discovered, and then furthermore, it's also philosophical, because our tradition as Ghanaians is reincarnation, that ancestors continue through progeny, and so any town in Ghana, if you look at the king or the chief, then he has to take a name of an ancestor, not the name that he was born with, to show that he's a continuation. And then he's overseeing the land and resources and ruling on behalf of ancestors, the present generation, and also future generations to come.
Okay.
that are in our seed, but not yet manifest. And so that's our culture, to continue ourselves through, our progeny. And so the naming of our people is an expression and a manifestation of that culture, So, our ancestors are continuing in reality through DNA, through culture, through phenotype, and then through name, our name, and through language and name. And so that is showing that, no, we respect our ancestors. We are continuing our ancestors' legacy. We are continuing our ancestors' culture and heritage. And so not using the names of our ancestry, is a very great disrespect to our ancestors. Because if we use foreign people's name, then now we're continuing their ancestors' legacy.
Sure.
Irrespective of beliefs.
Okay.
Because the beliefs, we don't see Islam and Christianity as something that implies the use of Arabic and European names. The Quran doesn't say to do that. The Bible doesn't say to do that. So why are people who are Christians using European names and people who are Muslims using Arabic? For what reason? It's cultural imposition.
Okay.
It's cultural assimilation.
Okay.
And it's confusion.
Okay.
It's confusing our people about, who you are and, what you should be doing. And then also it's developing antagonism against our own ancestries and making us, infusing an inferiority complex in us, making us want to be like Arabs and be like Europeans, look like Arabs and look like Europeans, dress like them, speak like them, and then, denigrate our own ancestry, which is self-destruction. That's self-destruction. So what we did is we instituted a Proud African campaign. And it was the parents of the school who, were the driving force in that campaign. They voted that we should make foreign names illegal in the school in 2010. That was with European names. Okay. But in 2018, then the students rose up and they were saying, well, the Christians have changed their names from European to African, But the Muslims are still using Arabic names, and that's not their real name. So if they're Busanga or Dagomba or Dagati or Grushi or Kotokoli, then they're using Arabic names. But Kotokolis, Dagombas, Grushis, Mosis, all of them have their own traditional names. So they're saying that it's the same thing that the African Christians are doing. They're being, and there was a trans-Sahara slave raid as well, where Arabs were castrating African men, butchering African men, capturing African women and taking them for harems in the Middle East, and that went on for over 1,000 years. And so that type of violence, is implicit in our use of those Arabic names. Okay. The violence against our own people and ancestors is a part of the use of those names, whether European or Arabic. And that's why people are bleaching when they use those names and follow such a philosophy. That's why you see bleaching. That's self-destruction, destroying your skin. That's why there's perming. That's self-destruction, burning your head with chemicals in order to change the texture of hair. So those type of practices are maybe not, people are not conscious that there's violence in that assimilation, because of the origins of it is violent. There was a slave raid, of Africans by Arabs and their proxies. And there was a slave raid of Europeans against Africans with their proxies. And so that violence is inside of the cultural assimilation. You see, so as we assimilate the culture of those people, then the violence that is a part of the initial, application of it is now becomes part of our philosophy and psyche. And so instead of looking at our own history and our own ancestry and looking at it as a continuation, now we're violently assimilated and become extensions of a foreign culture that is antagonistic to our ancestry.
Sure.
And you can see the antagonism because that's why they're calling our ancestors idol worshippers and heathens and mushrikim and infidels with negative adjectives to describe our ancestry and their practices. Busamdin, so and so. So this is something that we have to kick against.
Okay.
You know, even if we're Christians or Muslims, we have to kick against such a process that makes us inferior, and then also imposes a culture and on our people that is not emerging from our own material conditions, our experience and consciousness.
Now, let me ask this. Let me ask this before quick one. When it comes to the school, how disciplined the school is? Because most of the African Ghana here, most of the school, they says that when you coming from the States, I know the States, most of the school, they don't use cane in the school. So how disciplined are the students over here? Do the teachers use cane over here? If they don't use cane, how disciplined are they? And my second question is, everything over here is about Kwame Nkrumah, the Pan-Africanism and all that. Do you have our ministers, the MPs, even to the our Samia Nkrumah, did they visit this school to see what is happening over here?
Okay, the discipline. Discipline is a struggle, you know, because neocolonialism is an indisciplined system. It's power without responsibility, like Kwame Nkrumah said. So these things are being done, you know, by those who have authority, but there's outside forces that are directing them. So ultimately, they're not the ones that are responsible for the IMF and World Bank policies that are and the austerity measures that are going on in the system. They're not making those decisions. So the indiscipline, you know, like Kwame Nkrumah said that 24th February is a day of national crime, sin, shame, and anarchy. So the anarchy aspect of it, where, you know, the police are supposed to uphold the law, but taking bribes at various, you know, it's like, and there's like a under system in the system that is inconsistent with what is supposed to be, you know. So that kind of indiscipline is pervasive in the system. So it's something that we have to struggle to try to curtail and instill discipline. So ideological discipline is higher. So if we're able to get the students and staff to agree to the vision of the school, that we're fighting for the unity of Africa. We're fighting for our people to control our own resources. We're fighting to industrialize our society. We're fighting for our culture to be dominant and respected. We're fighting for the African personality to have a dignity and integrity, and the African to be respected internationally in world affairs. You know, that's what we want. And so everybody, let's agree to that. So we can, you know, have good behavior in classes. We can instruct well. We can do everything, because that's what we're trying to achieve. And that's a bigger, a compulsion. So that puts moral pressure on our people to do right, to do what's right, and to conduct themselves in a discipline. If you're a student disrupting the class, you know, then you're subverting the right of the rest of the students to learn the lesson well. And some of the students may be even weak. So what are you doing? You know, so we're looking at it from a collectivism, you know, perspective. You know, that's the discipline issue. So what ours is a three-pronged approach. It's first explanation, then a warning, and then corporal. No, isolation, and then corporal. So then that's how we look at the 4 stages of discipline. Yeah.
Now, do you have like ministers, the MP, Samia Nkrumah? Did Samia Nkrumah visit the school to see what is happening over here? Everything over here is about Africa, especially Kwame Nkrumah. did you have the ministers to come and look at what is happening over here to transfer this thing to most of the schools in Ghana?
Well, no ministers have come here. The Ghana Education Service Examinations Coordinator, Mr. Nate, he comes here and supports the school.
Okay.
Mr. Arhin from WIAC, he comes here, and he's supportive.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it. But Samia and Nkrumah has been here on several occasions to our graduations. And there's also another former parliamentarian from 60 to 66 for Brangahafo, and that's Lucy Enning. We call her Comrade Abena Enning. And she was here, for like two or three times she's been here and talked to us a lot about what was going on during Nkrumah's administration. We really, really love her and appreciate her and Samia coming to the school to give us the background. Because since we're the Nkrumahs, a lot of us are lacking, elder comrades to tell us, like NDC and MPP, they have people from Busia's time to be telling the young youth leadership of the MPP, this is what was happening during Busia and Dankwa's time. And this is how it was for us when we weren't in power. This is what we did. So they have, people guiding them. And then Rollins people, they have the people of NLC. Even Harley died in, I think, 89, and Deku just died in 2015.
Okay.
So NDC, they know about the military officers who took over power from Nkrumah with NLC, and they're able to give them guidelines on the military decrees that are in the Constitution and all of that. So they have those elders. So we also need elders. So people like Kwame Wiafi, Abena Enin, Samia, they've also helped us to be clear on what happened during those periods when we were in power. We, the Nkrumahs, were in power. And then after, we were illegally overthrown by the CIA, and now we're being suppressed. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Up to now, you see, by the forces of NLM and NLC, which are now in modern form NDC and MPP and NDC.
Sure.
But we know that really behind that is the NLM, which was a national liberation movement founded by Balfour Osei Akoto and the Santihinis Ochiami, and then NLC, which was under Ankara and Harley Rollins' uncle.
Okay.
You see, John Willie Kofi Harley, Rollins' uncle, who was the police commissioner at the time of Nkrumah's illegal overthrow. So we know that this is who they are.
Okay.
And we are now, out of power.
Okay.
And we have to, organize well and educate the masses of our people so we can create conditions that Nkrumahs will come back to power.
Okay. Now, the schools around, you have, let's say, school competition in terms, and why is it that people's school don't represent Ghana in terms of occasions to, portray who they are, how? Because what I saw this morning at the assembly, if your school were to, let's say, Independence Day or occasions that represent Ghana to stand in, I think it will be one of the best school ever in Ghana. And how is the challenges? Compare this one to other schools. What is the challenges like when they go closer to other schools? How did they see them? Because somebody is standing reciting Kwame Nkrumah ideology and what Kwame Nkrumah has done, reciting those things, which the universities student or cannot even say that. How challenges it is for other schools?
Well, our students, we go to BCE, and there's no apport from our students. So that is a challenge.
Okay. Against other schools.
Well, it's a challenge.
Okay.
To make sure, they have examination malfeasance and things going on. In 2015, the examination had to be retaken. So we go there, and our students, they're just going by what they've learned. That's it. And then they're taking the examination. And I'll just leave it at that, but that's a challenge, and then our placement for after BECE, that's been a challenge. Sometimes some of our students are not giving the schools that we think we deserve.
Okay.
This year they did reasonably well. We have 5 A schools that out of 8 students, 5 got A schools, 2 had B schools, and 1 C. So this year was pretty decent as far as our placements.
Okay.
I think that what we're looking at is higher education. Our mission is to develop university degree holders.
Okay.
So far, we have about 250 graduates from the school. And out of those 250 graduates, 150 or so have gone on to university. Around 50 students, graduates, have degrees.
Okay.
And there's about 100 of them now in universities in Ghana and elsewhere.
Okay.
A couple have gotten law school degrees. Now they're lawyers. So
They all came from the passed through here.
Yeah. And so the discipline is a serious issue, and then the challenge. But our students, on BCE, they may get anywhere between 8 to 22
Okay.
on the BC generally. This year's graduates, they have 15.7 average. The top one had 9. The lowest had 22.
Okay.
You get me? So because of our integrity, they get those kind of scores: 13, 12, 15, 10, 9. And so with that, they're equipped to go to SHS and perform. Yeah, so they go and perform.
Sure.
Yeah, and so sometimes, according to the SHS people, they're saying that some of those students have a 6-1s and then they can't do anything. But maybe our graduate who has 14 or 15, they're able to perform very highly in science and math. So this is what, we are hearing from those in the institutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people in Ghana here, people study after junior high, senior high, university, or some of them from even the senior high, they get scholarship, move to state to further their education. What message do you have for such people? Is it advisable for us to get scholarship, go outside, abroad, and go study and come back? Is it good?
I would say it depends on the opportunity, because if the educational system in Ghana was free, we could have a free education system in Ghana. We have gold, we have lithium, we have oil. If our resources were under the control of our own country, then we could have, top education and facilitate it here. And then if somebody wants to do further studies, then they go outside.
Okay.
But sometimes the opportunity, maybe they can get a scholarship in another country or something in Russia or in the States or England or what have you, or China. Then I would say that wu wai dream. If you have the opportunity, then use your own discretion about that one, because sometimes you may be able to get a certain skill or something that may be useful to us.
Sure.
And after you get the skill, then you can come back and train other Ghanaians with that skill.
Okay.
So I wouldn't totally say no. Don't go to university outside the country.
Okay.
Nkrumah did,
Okay.
but go out there with a nationalist mindset, that you're an African nationalist, and then you go and represent Africa where you are, and then come back and utilize whatever you've learned for the benefit of our struggle and our people.
Okay. At the Assembly Hall, I heard Ibrahim Traore's name. What did Kwame Nkrumah did that Ibrahim Traore is continuing Kwame Nkrumah legacy, that the school adopt Kwame Nkrumah and Ibrahim Traore, ideology, which Ibrahim Traore has become part of Kwame Nkrumah ideology, with the students are, reciting or mention his name here?
Well, we see that Ibrahim Traore is nationalizing the resources. He's instituting the culture of the Burkinabe people by removing wigs from judges and instituting African headdress for courts. And so he's removed the foreign military bases, French military bases from his country, and we see that the enemy is trying to, overthrow his government. And like Sekou Touré said, that if the enemy is not doing anything against you, you're not doing anything. And so we see the way the enemy is attacking Ibrahim Traoré and the Alliance of Sahel states. You see that they're doing something that is positive for Africa. Sure. And furthermore, they're uniting, along the same line as the Ghana-Guinea Mali Union or the Union of African States in 1961 on 1st July. And so when we look at what we're learning more about Ibrahim Traoré in terms of his ideology, because they haven't expressed it explicitly that this is our ideology. You get me? But we can see by the way they're operating that is a nationalist ideology, that they're pushing for African nationalism, through practice. We can see that through doing. And so they're taking their resources from foreign interests. They're eliminating foreign military presence from their countries. So those things are positive. So we support that. It is a new generation, and when they're doing something positive, we have to support them. And we see the enemy doesn't like it, and so if Ibrahim Traoré is leading and he's calling for African unity, and already they're showing a nucleus for that with the Alliance of Sahel states, let us work with our brother and unite Africa together. And if they're military regimes, so what? You get me? Nkrumah said that the military has no mandate, to rule politically. But the situation is dialectical. They're fighting against a terrorist insertion in Burkina, Mali, and Niger. And who are those terrorists? It's nothing but American CIA and British MI5 and the French Secret Service arming Wahhabis, in the northern part of those countries in order to create havoc, in those countries and trying to take control over their resources. And so, that's what they're up against. So we have to look at the actual condition in those societies and look at Thomas Sankara and Muammar al-Gaddafi. Example, that they were military, but look at the positive things they did. And so we hope that Ibrahim Traoré, Assimi Goïta, and Abdurrahman Chani are able to, emulate Gaddafi and Sankara's precedents that they have set for military leadership that takes over political power in Africa. And so certainly they should organize the people and educate the people. And I think things will develop positively.
So let me ask this. What do you think our leaders in Ghana here are not doing right when it comes to using Kwame Nkrumah ideology, things that our leaders supposed to do, that they are not doing it right, which is not helping the country as well?
Well, first of all, Kwame Nkrumah is illegal constitutionally. In Article 34 of the transitional provisions in the 1992 Constitution, the 1960 Constitution's abrogation is indemnified, where no court can even entertain someone who says, hold on, we voted for Kwame Nkrumah in 1960 to be president of the Republic of Ghana, under the 1960 Constitution. And we voted for the 1960 Constitution in a national plebiscite. We voted for the Constituent Assembly to draft it. We voted in a plebiscite to make it operational, enact it and make it operational. And so, therefore, it's legitimate. It should be considered legitimate. But, it's been abrogated by the NLC military dictatorship. And so they have now replaced that mandate of the citizens to write the supreme legislation of the country with military decree
Okay.
as the supreme law. So instead of we citizens voting for people to write the supreme law from its initial stage, now the law is decreed by the military. And then after that law is decreed, then we come in, the citizens come in. And then we vote peripherally. We don't vote on the economic system for the country, the legislation at the highest level for the country. It's the military regime of PNDC that did that. You understand?
Sure.
With PNDC Law 252. That's the law that set up the committee of experts under SKB Asante to write a constitution. You see, in terms of the proposals for the Constitution, the draft for the Constitution. And then PNDC Law 253 was the Consultative Assembly Law, where the PNDC selected people to deliberate over those proposals by the Committee of Experts. And then after they put a whole constitution together under the military regime, the military dictatorship, then they let us vote to either accept that or remain under military dictatorship. Yeah, so the citizens don't have the actual authority over Ghana. It's the military, And so they set up the whole architecture for legislating in the country, and it's military dictatorial legislation. And so under such a system, Nkrumah is sidelined and abrogated and suppressed, as well as his policies. If you listen to what we said in the Nkrumhism, it says when you talk of Nkrumhism, you mean the consistent ideological policies followed and taught by Kwame Nkrumah. These are contained in his speeches, in his theoretical writings, and stated ideas and principles. And so that means that actually Nkrumhism is his policies. And a policy is something that is officially established by a group of people, officially. That's a policy, you see. And so then the container for those policies is his speeches, theoretical writings, and stated ideas and principles. So we can see, this is what is indicating these were Nkrumah's policies. But the policies themselves was the 1960 Constitution, the 7-year development plan, and the like, So those were the policies. And so those policies are abrogated in the 1992 Constitution with Flight Lieutenant Rawlings' signature as chairman of the PNDC, military dictatorship. You get what I'm saying? So Nkrumah's policies are suppressed. That's Pan-Africanism. In the 1960 Constitution, Pan-Africanism was the policy of the state. It said that the surrender of sovereignty to a union of African states and territories was under the authority of Parliament, where we could say, okay, we're going to agree to be a part of a union of African states, where we're having now common militaries with Mali and Guinea. We're having exchange of cabinet ministers with Mali and Guinea, That is under the purview of the government and the parliament. They had that power, and that was a policy of that administration. But now we don't have such, policies, in terms of Pan-Africanism. And then with socialism as the policy of the 1960 Constitution, where it said that the objective of the government was to advance and build a socialist society. You see, and so with that policy, which is a constitutional policy of Nkrumah's administration, now in Article 36(2)(b) of the 1992 Constitution, it says the role of government is to create enabling conditions for the private sector to have a pronounced role in the society as a directive principle of state policy. You see, so now socialism is suppressed and abrogated constitutionally, where capitalism is, a principle of the state. And so we see the fruit of that, with a lot of foreign private ownership of our resources, with the Jubilee oil field, with Cosmos and Tulo, with Ghana Telecom owned by Vodafone, with SNIT Bank being under Societe Generale, we see the policy in action rather than Ghanaians owning those banks and the government being able to engage in domestic borrowing from those banks, where now, we have our own money in order to industrialize. Because if they're controlling the banks and the resources, they're not going to allow us to industrialize our country. That's the current situation. Wow. And so you're asking me about Nkrumah, and I'm saying Nkrumah's policies are being suppressed by the NDC and the NPP.
Okay. Wow. My last question.
Quickly, before you go to your next question. And so those policies affect education.
Okay.
Because the education is going to reinforce the policies. And so if it's foreign private sector led production in the country, then education is going to make us acceptant of that. So that means the foreign culture is dominant, the European personality is dominant in order to cultivate acceptance for foreign control of our resources in the people. And so that is a really serious problem with the educational model.
Okay. So now, before I move on, do you think Africa will unite? And if Africa will unite, what are the things that they have to put in place? Because when you look at some of our leaders, their mindset is different from what others are doing. Like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, their idea is different from Nigeria, Benin, Togo, and Ghana, Ivory Coast. Their idea is different from what these three countries are doing. So do you think Africa will unite? And if Africa will unite, what are the things that they have to do before they can unite?
Africa certainly will unite. Wow. Africa must unite.
Sure.
But this is the contradiction is that, we have an indigenous bourgeoisie. And like Nkrumah said, in Class Struggle in Africa, they're analogous to settlers and colonialists in defending, their parochial interest. And so they're rich, and their interest is in neo-colonial domination of our society. That's how their interest is, culturally, economically, philosophically. And so what we have to do is educate and organize the masses of our people. Educate them well, organize our people, and then make a change where we have a leadership that has a different mindset, a different class interest, and an opposing ideology to the neo-colonial system. Okay. So I'm very confident that our people are going to unite Africa. Wow. We see that all the leaders, those same leaders, they tried to organize under Akufo-Addo, they tried to organize ECOWAS defense ministers to invade Niger, and then what happened? They had to back up, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so the Alliance of Sahel States said an injury to one is an injury to all, and then they backed up. And so we can see that the tide of, African unity is rising, and so nobody can stop it. Sure. And what we're going to do is do our best to develop young people who are committed, and very serious about African unity. Wow. And as we go forward, then we have to be willing to, take risk, put our lives on the line for the unification of Africa. Okay. Yeah, because that is an objective that can't be sidetracked. It can't be put aside. It can't be swept under the rug. Africa must unite. We must unite Africa. And we need a continental government, and we need a common currency. We need a common military, a common market, a common economic system for Africa. That's what we have to establish. Okay. And we see, look at China. They were able to unite. Look at now how quickly they've industrialized, they developed. Now they're overtaking America even. Sure. Yeah, so the writing is all on the wall. If we Africans unite, then quickly, then Africa will rise up. Okay. Our people are the most intelligent. Our people are brilliant, strong, vibrant. All we need is unity. That's all we need is unity. And so, and our person, and to also express our culture. Okay. Our culture is the origin, So the African culture, and I'm encouraging every listener to join the Proud African campaign. Okay. And the first thing you can do is drop that foreign name and use your traditional name. Wow. And that's a good, that's the first step to making our personality respected and dominant in our space and throughout the world.
Okay. Now, for them dropping their foreign name, taking their African name, what message do you have for our brothers and sisters, the diasporans? What message do you have for them? Because lots of them are willing to come back, but sometimes they say our system is not helping them. Do you think it's our system, or because they are used to the system of the West, they are finding it difficult to live here?
Well, we have a problem in the diaspora and in Africa. And in the diaspora, our problem is mental slavery. On the continent, our problem is colonial mentality. So, our people have to fight, and using their traditional African names is a part of that fight because the suppression, of the system over there. So I encourage all of our people in the diaspora, come home. Come home, organize, talk to people. First, talk to people who have been in Africa or who have visited Africa. Talk to Africans from the continent who maybe live over there, who give a good face to you and a pleasant disposition, and then also try and find those who are from the diaspora that have been living in Africa for, let's say, at least 10 years and talk to them as well.
Okay.
And let them also have a little hand in the planning of your itinerary. Okay. And then when you come to Africa, make sure you meet with them.
Okay.
Not solely, but make sure you include them in your, itinerary so they can give you a little bit of insight coming from your same background and having lived in Africa, for a significant amount of time. That's what I would say to the Africans in the diaspora. And try to join an organization that it has an Africa program. Okay. And if you are in an organization, try to establish an Africa program in your organization. Okay. Where you support a school in Africa, where you're reading something to learn about Africa, where you support a clinic in Africa, whether you provide some scholarships for some students in Africa, whether you have an African dress day where you get African cloths to wear on a certain day, do something to incorporate Africa in your program. Okay. You see, that's what I would say to our people in the diaspora.
Okay. So do we have groups, somebody who is watching you say, how will I get these groups to, join? Do they have something like that? How would somebody who is watching you, maybe the person want to, join this African group for him or her to, develop much insight from Africa? How would the person do that?
They say for Africans, mouthogram travels faster than telegram. So talk to people. Okay. They have hair salons, they have barbering shops, they have different restaurants. You can talk to people. Okay. Talk to people, and through the talking, personal, interaction with people, I think that you can find out those kind of things. And organizations, or you can look on the internet in your area, but mostly instead of just the internet, I would say look and see which organizations are actually doing something in your community. Who do you see that's active doing something to help our people? They have you can go to Black student unions or African student unions on campuses, university campuses, and then try to support them and work with them, and then through that you can get links to organizing, and there's a whole lot that people can do. They have Black Prisoners Caucus, where you can work with the Africans who are in the prison that are studying, get them books about Africa by Kwame Nkrumah, by Marcus Garvey, by Malcolm X, and get them books so they can start reading and work with them. There's so many options, okay, in order to become important and active, okay, in our struggle.
Okay. So they should come and support people's school also. Come and support people's school. My final question is about the uniform that they are wearing. Is it something that you purposely designed? When you look at the badge, the badge has Africa, symbol or the map of Africa, and you have Ghana flag also at the hands here, and the socks they are wearing is also Ghana, flag. Do you design that purposely for yourself, or is something that is being instructed by the Ghana Education Service?
No, it's our own design.
Okay.
We want to infuse nationalism into the people, into the youth. And that's something that's very, very important. Is Ghanaian nationalism, and we want that nationalism to lead to Pan-Africanism. And so both is inside of the uniform. The nationalism is in there, and the Pan-Africanism is in there. And we wanted to inculcate it fully. I'll give an example of something in the syllabus, in the GS syllabus. They have something called attitudes and values. Attitudes and values. So the attitudes and values is receiving, responding, valuing, and organization of values. Those are four levels, four dimensions in the attitudes and values component of the GS syllabus. And so that is like pervasive or dominant in social studies, in RME, and citizenship education, but maybe now OWAP. You get me? And so, but if you look at Bloom's Taxonomy of Educational Objectives, Book 2, Affective Domain, that taxonomy it has another category, it has another dimension. It has receiving, it has responding, it has valuing, and it has organization of values, the same as attitudes and values in our syllabus. But it also has characterization, value complex, as the highest level of that taxonomy. You see, so that means that when Ghanaians are being developed to become aware of citizenship, of social studies, that it's not being taken to the level of self-consciousness, like we mentioned earlier in our discussion, self-consciousness. And so therefore, it's not saying that as a Ghanaian, you fully accept your nationalism. You fight for your country. You make sure no foreigners are able to control our resources. You make sure that the Ghanaian language and culture is dominant in the country. Inculcation, value complex. So that level is not, expressed in the GS syllabus in terms of emotions, beliefs, values, and attitudes. You see? So we're saying no. With Nkrumah's ideology, that aspect, it has to be in the people. It has to be in the youth. How can you not make self-consciousness of being a Ghanaian, fully who the young person is? I'm a Ghanaian fully. I'm an African 100%. And this is what it means to be a Ghanaian and an African. We don't accept foreign control of our resources. Our language has to be the dominant language in the country. You see, yansisa brofo, na tree, wosu. You get me? So that's what it's supposed to inculcate in the citizens, to fight and be vigilant and be, determined to make sure that our, society, it represents our interest. You see, and that's who we are. You see, but so that level in the syllabus is excluded. But the same Bloom's taxonomy is in the bibliographies for the education course at Legon, at UCC, at all the teachers training colleges. They are citing Bloom's taxonomy. So why did they take value complex and characterization out from attitudes and values? So then we go to the organizational level of our values, but not to inculcate them as who we are. You see? Yeah, so that's why we want to have our flag colors on our uniform, so our students can see that, no, we're Ghanaians. This red is for the blood of our ancestors. Moja na na nam shrego tu homayen. Edrumi ne wunsusu seyebe ebiatrasu. You see? Min kuminya. You see? So that red, we want them to be wearing it. And we want the gold to be right there on them, so they can see, no, that value is us. That's us, that gold. And the black star has to shine on our resources, on our gold. We shine with control of our resources, which makes us shine. And the land, we have to control it. You see? Yeah, so that's what we're inculcating in the youth by having that type of uniform. Even if you come maybe in about a month or two, you'll see a surprise with the uniform.
Wow.
Yes.
Surely I'll come. Now, your final message for those who are watching you. What message do you have for them, your final message? Watch the camera and talk to the Ghanaian schools and our brothers and sisters, the diaspora, and the system. Watch the camera and tell them something.
I would say that one, join the Proud African campaign and use your own African name and not a foreign name. 2, join an organization that is fighting for the unity and liberation of Africa so you can contribute consistently to the advancement. We're not going to be able to do it if our people are not committing labor, mental and physical labor, to our effort. So we need more people that are organized, that are engaging actively in order to bring about the unity and the liberation of Africa. And in educational side, we need to be more vigilant in the education side in order to make sure that we have an African philosophy and an African ideology that is dominant over the educational process. And that our culture, Ghanaian culture, African culture, is the culture that is dominant. You see, and our personality is the dominant personality, not the Arabic personality or not the European personality. But we should be cognizant of which personality is dominant, because they're looking at expanding their personality to dominate. And so when we say, my name is Abdul Rahim, and then an Arab looks at you, he sees, oh, my personality is dominant. Or if you say, my name is, Gifty, whatever, Gifty Aboa, then the European sees, oh, my personality is dominant. Just by your name. That we're speaking English, they're seeing, even though we're bilingual, but still they're seeing their personality. They're seeing their ancestors being continued through extension even into us. And they're seeing control over us when our personality is not dominant. And so we need to be also very, very conscious of that. That no, it's a struggle. And if it's African land, an African country, an African territory, then the African personality has to be dominant in such conditions. And if it's not, then it's a problem, a serious problem. So that's what I have to say to the people,
Thank you so much.
And the Africans in the diaspora, come home.
Sure. Come home, Africans in the diaspora, come home. We need you. We are almost 2 months to, December, homecoming. So we want all of you to, come home and, join organization whereby you will be able to cope with the system. So thank you so much, Mr. Aimole, for your time and yes. So this is Kwame Nkrumah. You said something during the assembly. You recite something, and the student also respond. For me, to be frank, I don't know much about that. So I think I have to come back for me to come here.
No problem. You're welcome. You're always welcome.
Thank you. So guys, in case you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe and share to other people as well. Thank you so much.